Welcome to the morning feed. I wanted to go over a recent article that was published by WALB.com, and it is about the disappearance of Paula and Brandon Wade. There was also an interview with Paula Wade's sister, which would be Brandon Wade's aunt, and she spoke about the case and about the investigation. They were also joined by the detective who is assigned to Paula and Brandon Wade's case. He's been assigned to the case, I believe it's been like within the last year, and his name is Detective Garland. We'll also be hearing from him a little bit. So I just want to play the interview and also our conversation that we had about the interview after it was done. So let's bring that up on our screen. So the interview says, or the article for the interview, "We miss them and we love them so much and we won't stop. We will find you. We will absolutely find you." Words Mary, Paula's sister, would tell her sister and nephew, Paula and Brandon Wade. They've been missing for 22 years. "We will hold on to hope and miracles have happened," Paula's sister said. She described the last 2 decades as an ambiguous loss. She had no choice but to watch her nephew Brandon grow up through age-progressed photos. Brandon turned 25, which is the age that Paula was when they went missing. "It's just unbelievable, and so it's a lifetime of missing someone," she said. Paula and Brandon Wade were reported missing on October the 14th, 2002, after Paula didn't show up for work at Sam's Club. She had worked there for 5+ years and was getting ready to transfer to Sam's Club in Florida. Valdosta Police searched Paula's apartment and found all of the Wade's things, but the mother and son were nowhere to be found. And that's a photo of Paula and her sister. "It just doesn't make sense that she just fell off the face of the earth," Sergeant Paul Garland said, the lead investigator over the case. He fears the worst has happened to the Wades. "The feeling is unfortunately that they were murdered," it says, "and their bodies have been dumped somewhere," he said. Which is just really shocking to hear because no one in law enforcement or otherwise has ever stated that in the media. Several leads are still being followed to this day. Garland says the most recent lead brought them to South Carolina to someone who claimed that they had found Brandon. Sadly, that was not the case. "I'm totally frustrated with the fact that it's gone on for this long and there's nothing. We don't have anything. We just are trying to get justice for the Wade family," he said. With both of Paula's parents passing away, Paula's sister said it's her mission to keep searching for answers. "One of the last things my mom said to me was to never stop. We just try to think of everything we can to make sure that they're not forgotten," she said. Now, if you know anything about their disappearance, they provide some numbers here. You can call the FBI at 770-216-3000. You can also anonymously email the Wades family, that is, at findpaula@gmail.com. So, and you can also call 1-800-THE-LOST too. All 3 of those tip lines work really well. So let's watch this video, this interview, where we hear from Paula's sister, Brandon's aunt, and we also hear from Detective Garland.
From the family of a Valdosta mother and son who disappeared 22 years ago this month.
That is right. WALB News 10's Lena Allen spoke with Paula Wade's sister for the very first time since she and her son disappeared without a trace.
For 22 years, a Valdosta mother and son have been the center of a missing persons cold case. To this day, no one knows where Paula and Brandon Wade disappeared to, but one word remains the driving force behind keeping their family motivated to find that answer. That word is hope.
We will hold on to hope, and miracles have happened.
An ambiguous loss. That's what Mary Ramsbottom, Paula's big sister, tells me she's been living through over the past 2 decades. She's had no choice but to watch her nephew Brandon grow up through age progression photos.
Brandon turned 25, which is the age that Paula was when they went missing. It's just unbelievable. And so it's a lifetime of missing someone.
Paula and Brandon were reported missing on October 14th, 2002, after Paula didn't show up for work at Sam's Club. She had worked there for 5+ years and was getting ready to transfer to a Sam's Club in Florida.
It just doesn't make sense that she just kind of falls off the face of the earth.
Lead investigator over the case, Sergeant Paul Garland, tells me he fears the worst has happened to the Wades.
The feeling is that unfortunately, they were murdered and their bodies have been dumped somewhere.
Right now, Sergeant Garland says there are 2 persons of interest in the case. Several leads are still being followed to this day. Garland says the most recent lead brought them to South Carolina, to someone who claimed they had found Brandon. Sadly, that wasn't the case.
I'm totally frustrated with the fact that it's gone on this long and there's nothing. We don't have anything. And we're just trying to get justice for the Wade family.
With both of Paula's parents passing away, Mary says it's her mission to keep searching for answers.
One of the last things that my mom said to me was never stop. We just try to think of everything that we can to make sure that they are not forgotten.
Well, that was a lot to take in. Yeah, that's definitely what he said, that they were just dumped somewhere. That's the words that he used. And it's possible, and it's something that has been theorized about and discussed for a long time inside and outside of Paula Wade's family. It's not a secret that that's what could have happened. But if you have nothing to go on, it's probably not a good idea to put specific theories out into the public, is what my personal opinion is. That could perhaps really pigeonhole you into a place that you don't want to be, without getting too much into that. So after hearing this interview, I had no choice, but I had to call Paula's sister, check in, see how she is, because I was not sure if she found out after or during this interview what was said by the Valdosta Police Department. So I gave her a call and asked her if it was okay if we record it. So I want to share that conversation with her permission, with everyone, and just for one, to go over what's been said and what the family may or may not know about that. For another thing, I also just want to highlight, this is what a family goes through. This is what a family with a missing person who has possibly been the victim of a crime, a very difficult to digest crime, goes through. And this is what they go through year after year after year after year when the case is unsolved. It's not just ambiguous loss, as Paula's sister mentioned to WALB. It is so much more than that. Before I go on and on about that and lose everybody here, I'm going to go ahead and play that conversation for you right now. Hi, Mary. This is Rona. Are you there?
I am.
How are you?
I'm doing okay. How are you?
Oh, doing all right. Been thinking about Paula and Brandon, of course, with the new news articles that have been updated, and I wanted to touch base with you and see how you were doing with the anniversary. I know that it's just hit 22 years um, and that there's always some new media because you guys are so determined and focused when it comes to outreach. So I always look for media around the anniversary. And I just wanted to touch base after I saw a WALB article um, that had yourself and the Valdosta Police Department featured in it. Um, are you okay with discussing that?
Yes.
So, first, I just want to talk a little bit as far as the 22-year anniversary. I know there's always, especially in recent years, there's always something kind of significant that has happened over the last few years between the FBI putting them on the database right before the anniversary, USA Today getting involved, other big names getting involved in their story. So, is there anything that happened this year that maybe you haven't had a chance to talk about?
Pretty big news, actually. Gas TV and the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children partnered together, and they have a segment on the gas station TV. So whenever you go to fill up gas, sometimes you see the TV and they're playing. Sometimes it's like an ad, or maybe there's a little bit of a show, or
Oh, yeah.
yeah, that. And
Oh,
so
wow.
yeah, it's pretty huge. And they're running it throughout the month of October in Florida and in Georgia through all the gas station TV partners.
Oh my goodness, that is huge.
It is huge. We're so grateful. We're just so grateful.
Oh my goodness. That's going to be a ton of exposure and in all the right places.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Wow, that's amazing. And I see that you also were able to get the interview with WALB. I have noticed a few other articles, of course, um the local press also jumping in. So that's really nice. Did you have to fight very hard for coverage this year?
Well, National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, they were amazing because they put out a media release regarding uh, the segments on the gas station TV. And so what I did is I made a copy of that and sent it in an email to the Valdosta Daily Times. I sent it to the Valdosta Police Department just to make sure that they were aware, and asking them if they could please, Valdosta Daily Times, could they please run another piece marking the 22-year anniversary? And I asked Valdosta Police Department if they could please put something on their Facebook page and their Instagram.
Yeah, and I noticed that that was put out as well.
Oh, I almost forgot to say this. Leanne reached out to me from WALB. She's truly an angel, and she does a segment on WALB called Missing in South Georgia. And although WALB had previously done pieces for us, and it was put out at various times throughout the last 22 years, she was amazing. She reached out to me and she said, we've done pieces, but I don't think anybody's ever talked to the family. Would you be, willing to talk? And I said, absolutely.
That's
And
amazing.
yeah, she truly is an angel.
I have seen their Missing in South Georgia coverage. That's really it's so good though when they'll revisit a case that that they have done before, but, you just you never know. People not everybody sees everything and, if that was a little while ago, there's more people viewing content like this all the time. So you just never know who you might grab locally that you didn't get last time.
Correct. And one thing that was one thing we were very grateful for was it aired several different times throughout the day. It aired on the 5 p.m. news, it aired at the 6 p.m., and it aired on the 11 p.m. So it was out there quite a bit this year on WALB.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's
we're very grateful.
That's so awesome, and they're a really good local, outlet too that a lot of people pay attention to. They get a lot of views. I've looked at their
Yes.
view counts before, and they have really good coverage. They cover so many issues in Valdosta. Um, they're a really reliable source of information when it comes to things around South Georgia, so I was really happy to see that they reached out and wanted to actually do a personal interview rather than just an article or just a copy and pasted piece of information from another outlet. It can be so dangerous to do that in this case. I don't wanna be too over the top in saying dangerous, but it can be dangerous really because, if you're copying and pasting from a source that is parroting information that is not correct, then that may that may give the wrong impression and not get the tips and information that you need.
Okay, that's 100% true.
Um, so I want to play a little clip really quickly because in all honesty, I was pretty stunned when I heard this interview from WALB. You did amazing as always. You did great. Um, but hearing what Detective Garland had to say about the case, definitely caused me to pause. I'm gonna be really transparent here. I I felt stunned. I felt a bit shocked, only because, with publicly, we do not know any clear path for what might have happened with your sister and your nephew, Paula and Brandon. So since we don't really know that, I feel that it is always a good thing to keep all avenues wide open. And it doesn't feel like this is the first time I ever heard an interview where I feel like that was not the case. Um, so I wanna replay a little clip here so that we can both be refreshed on everything that was said. And then I wanna get your feedback and see how you are, how your family is, because I don't know how you felt about what was said. So let's listen to it really quickly.
Ready to transfer to a Sam's Club in Florida.
It just doesn't make sense that she just kind of falls off the face of the earth.
Lead investigator over the case, Sergeant Paul Garland, tells me he fears the worst has happened to the Wades.
The feeling is that unfortunately, they were murdered and their bodies have been dumped somewhere.
Right now, Sergeant Garland says there are two persons of interest in the case. Several leads are still being followed to this day. Garland says the most recent lead brought them to South Carolina, to someone who claimed they had found Brandon. Sadly, that wasn't the case.
That I'm totally frustrated with the fact that it's gone on this long and there's nothing, we don't have anything. And we're just trying to get justice for the Wade family.
With both of Paula's parents passing away, Mary says it's her mission to keep searching for answers.
One of the last things that my mom said to me was never stop. We just try to think of everything that we can to make sure that they are not forgotten.
Now, if you know anything regarding the
Okay, so before we discuss what was said, I just want to say it is not as if everybody in her life does not know that something awful has happened with Paula and Brandon, something that just is so wildly out of the ordinary that would keep them away from your family this whole time. So it's not as if that's an unknown. Everybody knows that, and that's why your family spent years, 22 of them exactly, to try and sound the alarm bells and get the assistance, the awareness, the help, the boots on the ground, the wings in the air, everything you could possibly do to try to get answers to, just flail your arms up and down and say, "Hey, over here, something's wrong my sister, my daughter, my, who Paula was to everyone, she's missing and this isn't right. Something terrible is wrong. Even her coworkers knew that, which is when you work a retail job or when you work, at a corporation like she did with Sam's Club, it is not a normal thing for your employees to be like, "Oh my goodness, somebody didn't show up to work. We need to go search for them." But that's what happened, and that speaks so much to Paula's character. Um, so I wanna say that first. It's not as if nobody knew this. However, even in cases where there's damaging information as far as evidence and things that have been collected, when there's already an arrest that's been made, when they do a press conference, they really try to avoid, you know, what some could probably call callous wording surrounding the very difficult details of the circumstances. So with all of that being said, I understand that, but it was also very shocking, um, to hear it. So on your end, how did you feel about that?
That's a great question. That's the first time that we have heard it ever expressed so callously and so blatantly at all, much less to media.
Yeah, that was
You are
very shocking.
correct. Yes, you are correct in saying that sorry, you have to catch my breath for a second.
No, I totally understand.
Um,
This I can only imagine has been difficult to digest.
so the concern that we have is you're correct. 22 years without contact from my sister wouldn't happen. With that being said, miracles and crazy things have happened in this world, and we just don't know. So, unless the police have something that they have not shared with us, we just don't know. Now, what that means is coming on and putting it out there the way that it was done, maybe because it was mentioned in the piece there about a tip in South Carolina where someone thought they had found Brandon. Brandon as an adult, mind you. And will someone hearing this go, well, I don't need to call in that tip because they think they were murdered and dumped. Ugh, it makes me sick to say it like that. I'm trying to say the words like he did because putting it out there like that, somebody sees him because he could be out there. He may not ever know that he was missing. He could be a man out there not knowing somebody was ever missing him. And now, because of the way that that was stated, someone may not even call in a tip because they'll second guess themselves beyond what they already second guess themselves with anyway in trying to call in something. So not only was it callous, blatant, it was, I would venture to say, a bit damaging to receive any other tips.
I agree with that. I think it's all those things. It's very difficult. And it's also very much lacking. It's also lacking any connection. It's a very clinical type view of the case. It would be very difficult that, typically when a police department speaks to the media, they know everybody's listening to this, especially the family. Um, I don't know. Do you feel that there was any strategic reason for them to say this?
Well, your guess would be as good as mine.
Okay. I wasn't sure if, and I don't want you to divulge anything that law enforcement may or may not have shared with you, but, um, that you're not, able to share. We would never wanna do that. But I was just curious if there was, yeah, some kind of, strategic approach because that's the only reason I could really think to make a statement like they made. There's never been a I've poured through every public statement, every video, every interview in your sister and your nephew's case, um, probably to an unhealthy degree, and so I know everything that's been said. I have a full documentation. I have full timelines of every media statement, every interview, every piece of the puzzle that they have revealed over 22 years publicly, I have a record of, and I have a chronological timeline of. Uh, This is this has never been said before, and I'm not trying to make a big deal about something, but it is a big deal because it's never been said before. And I just immediately thought, oh my, first thought like, oh my goodness, has there been a major development here? And the more I thought about it, I just thought it doesn't make sense for them to use this in that context. And so I wanted to reach out and just see how your family was feeling about it because I can't imagine how difficult that was to hear. Were you hearing that live, or did you hear it after the fact?
I heard that after the fact.
Okay, because it looked like you were live on the broadcast.
Yeah, we did our segment first, and then after mine, she had her segment with him.
Okay. Well, yeah, I'm so sorry that, that was said the way that it was. It's very concerning. Um, have there been any other new developments or anything like that that you would wanna share?
We just ask that if anyone saw anything, heard anything back then, even if they think, well, it probably doesn't even make a difference, it just might be the missing puzzle piece that we need. So please call it in. You can email me at findpaulawade@gmail.com. It'll remain anonymous, just like the tip did from South Carolina. Um,
Yeah,
I
anybody at all that is listening to this, needs to ensure that you use your own judgment and not the judgment of anyone else if you think you have information. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I guess that's what I wanted to say, that we have not been made aware of any new developments. Um, as Garland said in his interview, they continue to follow leads, and we need the leads to come in. And whether it is you see someone and you think they look like the age progression pictures, or if you remember a little boy that looked like Brandon, 22 years ago, or you see someone now that looks like the age progression, same thing with my sister. You look at her and go, oh, I remember her. She was my neighbor. Or she lived in the same complex. Again, it might be something you think is so insignificant, but it might just be the piece that breaks everything wide open. And I just beg anybody that has any information, or if they lived in that complex at that time, to reach out and let's just chat and see what we can come up with, see what people remember.
Yeah, and they disappeared sometime between October the 12th and October the 14th. So, if you have information from that time frame, it would be absolutely, um, absolutely amazing to get any kind of information like that. But if you also have information prior to that, or after that about anyone involved with this case, definitely bring that forward. It could be incredibly helpful. You have no idea just how helpful it could be. Even small details from before Paula Wade and Brandon Wade disappeared.
Yeah, and even after the fact, I think you mentioned it on a previous segment, and which is absolutely true. And I was grateful that you said it. Noticing somebody's behavioral changes around that time could be a key. You
Absolutely.
know, did you see your neighbor disappear for a week? Did you see your neighbor, you know, take a road trip? Um, did you see somebody that you were familiar with and they were there that weekend, but then they weren't afterwards? A- Any number of things. Like I said, it could maybe seem so insignificant, but it might be the missing piece to the puzzle.
Or you saw somebody around this time and they were acting completely out of character,
Right,
shortly before, shortly after.
right.
Very, very important. I would love to, as far as the people of interest in this case, I would love to hear anyone's input who may have had contact with them through November of 2002.
Oh, that would be phenomenal.
I
I,
mean,
I
it
would,
would be
I,
great.
I would welcome, I would welcome a conversation for sure. And you know, maybe, maybe there's somebody out there that feels like they're being accused and they had nothing to do with anything, but they hold the missing puzzle piece. Come forward, talk to me. You know, we can figure it out.
Absolutely. Absolutely, and I can't even explain how true that is, that your family only wants the truth and wants those answers, but you want the truth. You're not trying to go after any person. You just want the truth and wanna know, most importantly, you just wanna know where they're at.
Just want to bring
So,
Paula and Brandon home.
yeah, that's the mission, and everything else is just a circumstance of that. It that's the most important thing to your family, and as much as I've heard you speak about this case, conversations we've had prior, I know that that is all your family wants. So yeah, if anybody does have information, please, please come forward, and even if you think that you have information that seems to conflict with anyone's theory, if you have information that conflicts with my own information that I'm passing on about their disappearance or the police or anybody, please make sure you bring that forward. And if you think, maybe you need to share that information with the family as well so that they can stay on top of it. Um, they're very, very understanding, very easy to speak to. You can use that email address at findpaulawade@gmail.com, and they're just very easy to interact with. Do it anonymously if you want to, but, um, it would be welcomed information that has been wanted for 22 years, and you would be able to help immensely. And I feel like with more public exposure, a lot of people do, become very compassionate to people who are going through these type of circumstances. So I hope that whoever does hold those missing pieces would feel it upon their heart to share what they know.
I pray for that.
Well, again, I'm really sorry, and I'm not trying to throw anyone under the bus here. I'm not throwing any shade at the Valdosta Police Department. I believe that as Paula and Brandon's family and as a victim to their disappearance, that you have a voice here and that you should be heard, and I just wanted to make sure that you could be heard here. So I'm really, really thankful that you had time to do this really quickly and just kinda catch up for a minute what's been going on. I really, really, really hope and pray for you and for your family and for Paula and Brandon that the new push with the gas station flyers going up on their little screens at the pumps, I really hope that also could bring forward some information.
I hope so. That was such an amazing opportunity to get their faces out there, and we're just so grateful.
And you
I'm
should have won
grateful.
an award too for just being able to get all of this for them.
Well, well, I want to say thank you to you too for always um, putting focus on Paula and Brandon and highlighting their story, the case, and putting it out there for hopefully that one person that knows something hears it, sees it, and comes forward, because you've done quite a bit, and we really appreciate you.
I'm happy to be able to do it, and hopefully all of this will lead to answers one day very, very soon.
Yeah, from your lips to God's ears.
Amen. Well, I thank you so much for talking with me, and I will let you go. I didn't want to make this a very long thing because I know this week and this time period is very difficult for your family. So I appreciate you taking the emotional space even to be able to do this.
Thank you so much.
All right, you have a good
Okay,
night.
you too. Bye-bye.
Bye. So, I just want to thank everybody who has taken the time to listen to this. We really appreciate everyone's time. I know that Paula Wade's family appreciates everyone's time. And I just want to emphasize, if you do know anything, please contact findpaulawade@gmail.com. You can do so anonymously. You can also contact the FBI, as we mentioned. You can also contact 1-800-THE-LOST. If you are contacting the FBI, you can call just 1-800-CALL-FBI, or you could call 770-216-3000. That is the FBI Atlanta field office, who would be the most knowledgeable about Paula and Brandon Wade's disappearance, opposed to other FBI offices that you might get routed to if you happen to call the main line. So, with all of that being said, we appreciate everybody who's watching the coverage that's happening for Paula and Brandon Wade. It has been 22 years as of October the 14th. 22 years that they have been missing. I expect that there could be more coverage. You never know until we hit November. Usually by November, we've seen all that we're going to see for the anniversary. So we'll keep our eye out, and we will share with you more media as we happen to see it. Thank you so much for listening.